Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of We Listen and We Judge. Today, we're doing travel talk.
Hi, everyone.
So, we're going to give you some good advice on how to become a world class traveler. Well, what we think is a world class traveler.
Yeah.
You might not agree, but I do feel we have some expertise when it comes to traveling. And it is very important to know that should enjoy where you wanna go and what you wanna do. You have to align with the right people when it comes to traveling, that's a big thing. I can think of a story of when I was doing study abroad, and I was out with these girls. They wanted to go to the club, I'm cool with it, I'm like, "Yeah, let's go hang out." So we were there for a good bit. We met some guys. They were a little sketchy in my opinion, but the girls were enjoying their company. And one dude dropped a drink on my jumpsuit, and I was really upset and ready to go home. That's when I told him, like, hey, I'm ready to head out. What is it looking like for you guys? And they were like, I want to stay till the end of the club. And I'm like, if you know me, you know I am not a stay till the lights come on type of person. I feel like there's more to do in life than stay to the end of the night at the club. So I'm ready to go around 2 a.m. That's usually my cutoff time. And I try to align myself with people who want to do that because you don't want to ruin somebody's night. So I was telling them, "Hey, I'm about to leave. You guys can stay. I'll just find a way home." And then they started going back and forth like, "We all should go. No, I can stay by myself." And I'm like, "No, you shouldn't stay here with random guys you don't know because that's crazy." So I told them like, "Hey, you stay. I'ma go. It will be safer for me to leave." And they still arguing back and forth. So I just dash out and run down the street and run to my hotel. And I made it back safely. I don't recommend you do that, but in my point of view, after experiencing that, I am very choosy about who I travel with and who I'm going out of the country with specifically. So that's why I give this advice. What do you have to say about traveling, Mom?
Find your favorite airline, first of all, especially if your trips are not going to be road trips. If you're traveling in the United States of America, just know sometimes it's more expensive to stay in state than it is to go out of the country. It's kind of weird, but we found that we spend a lot less money when we leave the country. We are what I would call bougie beach goers. So when we want to go to a good beach, we find a country with pristine waters where you can see your feet. I don't like oceans where I can't see my feet. You just never know what's crawling around in there. But we are very bougie when it comes to having like real white sands, real clear and pristine water. So we travel to islands. I'm not sure if our ancestors are from the islands, but I love a good island. So my suggestion is find an airline where you can stack your points. And the good thing about points is it can turn into a flight to your next location after you get enough rewards. Get a good credit card that gives you rewards as well. But back to B is for budget. If you add a credit card to your life, make sure you can pay it off every month if possible. That builds really good credit, first of all. And then second of all, it keeps you from tagging on a bunch of interest if you can pay it off at the end of every month. Get you a good credit card for booking your trips. Get you a good airline. And you might want to get a few airlines that you trust and get in their Rapids Rewards programs or Sky Miles programs, whatever they're called, depending on what airline you're with. And then do your research about which countries are safe. Find out, are there any entry fees? And then make sure your passport is up to date. Because I think it's 6 months before a trip.
Yeah,
You,
6 months you
yeah,
should.
you should make sure that there's not an expiration date coming up on your passport because otherwise you won't be able to use it. So just make sure your passport is up to date and you have enough time on it during when you book your trip and when you actually go. Another thing that I would suggest is don't do the foreign exchange rate. A lot of times, most countries, I would say, take US dollars. And I would buy my things in US dollars and see if you can get US dollars back when you give US dollars in a foreign country. We've done that foreign exchange rate before and we learned the hard way. I can't do a thing with that money once you get back to the States or if you don't spend it before you leave. What else, Brandy, would be some good travel advice? Brandy checks bags. My husband and I, we're and I know you say, "Well, how do you leave the country and not check a bag? Do you have enough outfits?" Yes. There is some, bags on going around on TikTok right now because you could do a roll-on bag and then a personal item, which could be a backpack, your pocketbook, but I put my pocketbook inside my roll-on item or inside my backpack. But there's a backpack going on around on TikTok where you can put a good bit of stuff inside the bag. And the reason why we don't check is just fear of luggage getting lost and having to run it down and not being able to have a good time when we get there. But now there's plenty of people who travel all the time and check bags and they don't lose their luggage. But I just know it happens. I've been in group trips before where it has happened. My uncle, in fact, when we went to Jamaica for a big, it was my dad's big 75th birthday party. He wanted to go to Jamaica, and we had about almost 25 family members who came, and my uncle's luggage got lost. And so just the horror stories always keep me from wanting to check a bag. But I would say, for those of you who have that fear, get you a good carry on that meets the size requirements and also get you a good backpack where you can pack pretty tightly. If you have a military background or know somebody with a military background, let them teach you how to roll things up as tight as possible because that's how you'll be able to get a lot of the things you need to take with you in your bag.
Yeah, if you do have airline loyalty, a lot of times you can also get a free check bag. So my airline loyalty is with Delta, and I'm at the Silver Elite level, and that helps me get free upgrades. And also, when I check my bag, it's always free. That's why I recommend people, like she said, find your favorite airline. Don't automatically for the cheapest one because the loyalty does build up, and then eventually you'll get free flights. And if you're in a bind, you're have more priority to. I don't believe in the standby thing too much. I know a lot of people do the buddy passes, and that's great, but eventually you get caught up. I know one of my friends also that I recently met, he had a hard time getting back from a trip that he was going from. He had to get back to work, but he was on standby, so it was really hard to get a seat. He was stuck another night. So that's one thing I would watch out for. My favorite hack right now for travel is actually Next Vacay. So that is an email chain. It will send you cheaper flights for, traveling out of the country. Also, sometimes it does the United States flights too. Like a good bit of flights to New York from Jacksonville have been like $150 when I've been living there. And then I got a good flight to Panama for about $300. I was able to upgrade to first class for a little bit more, and then when I got there, I stayed at this rainforest resort that was pretty nice, and they had a all-inclusive package, so I was able to really do Panama for about $800, $900 and have a really good time, have good accommodations, and still fly first class too. So check out Next Vacay if you are, like, a new traveler and you just need advice on where to go or you're open to where to travel because they also do it by whatever country has a deal. It's not necessarily going to be based on where you're trying to go to. Like if you're really trying to go to England or you're trying to go to Japan, you can't put in the information like, hey, what's the cheap flight for England and Japan? But they will find and do the research and they'll send you when it's the cheapest time to go. So right now, there's a lot of good flights to Norway. I believe I've seen a good flight to Guatemala too. That had me interested in going for Christmas. And also Spain is a really good one on there as well. So they're sending you good pricing for that country. When it comes down to traveling though, just know what you want to do. Like she said, she likes to be the bougie beach person. I'm actually more of a adventure time person. I want to explore the countries. I want to explore the culture. I don't always have to be at the beach. I don't always have to be at a resort either. I definitely do the Airbnb thing. Sometimes it's a lot cheaper to go the Airbnb route when you're going with a traveler. You really want to experience different countries and you've never been before, or you want to experience different cities, find an Airbnb and split it between your friends. That could be the difference between $1,000 trip and maybe a $500 trip. I can't split a flight, so sorry, but you can split accommodations and that makes it a lot easier
Yeah.
for people.
And the Airbnb houses are pretty nice. As a matter of fact, if Marriott is your brand of choice, they have like the Marriott villas.
Yeah, those are
Yeah,
nice.
so you can do a Marriott villa. And my family, in fact, I wish we had them on here. We're pretty much all travelers. And they probably have just as many hacks as Brandy and I. And we're Marriott brand supporters because all the countries that we've visited as a family, we've been able to use our Marriott's rewards and get butlers. And I mean, it's nice for upgrades when you have a brand of choice like Marriott. And I'm not doing a commercial for Marriott, but I just know we've had good experiences with Marriott brand properties when we've gone to different countries around the world.
Yeah. Another thing I want to highlight too is people will travel shame. I think that's really weird, especially when you're a newer person trying to explore. Like y'all try to say everybody going to Jamaica, everybody going to the Bahamas, everybody going on a cruise. You have to do what you love. Don't try to be different and book a trip to Zimbabwe if you don't want to go. I want to go one day because I want to visit the Victoria Falls. But if you're
Yeah.
not interested in that, then don't do it just because everybody is saying, "Oh, everybody going here, everybody going that." I really feel it's weird, especially when like Black people do it, because I feel like that's a way to meet other Black people, meet other cultures, see what it's like, in these countries, and I feel very safe. I can say Jamaica, I love it. It's one of the countries
We've
that I will
gone like
never
4 times.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's never gonna be like, no to Jamaica for me. If, you
Right.
got a good flight, you got a good hotel, I'm going. Barbados, I fell in love with that country too.
Aruba.
Well, I haven't been to
Oh, you haven't
Aruba
been to
yet.
Aruba?
Yeah, I haven't
Aruba
been.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
She's right. Like, I feel like you shouldn't allow anybody's opinion of how you're going, where you're going. If you want to do the cruise, cruises aren't for everybody, but if that's your thing, then have a good time
mm,
because it's really about getting away, relaxing, taking a break, getting our blood pressure down,
yeah.
getting away from the throes of life and the everyday, run of the mill things that's going on at work. And you need to step back and get away and see some of the fruits of your labor because there's nothing like working day in and day out and never being able to really enjoy
Mm,
the money that you've made. Budgeting, we just talked about, is important. Saving and investing, we'll talk about that later, which is equally important. But just as important is relaxing and taking a break and seeing new people and meeting new cultures. It's amazing to go out of the country and talk with other people and just see how they live and what's important to them. And it's just interesting. And I love it
mhm.
personally.
I feel like it brings us to a more of an understanding of other cultures. In America, we can be very ignorant of different races and different ethnicities. And we also get into this fearful thing where we're almost attacking people. You can see that with some of the foreign policies that we have and just people, oh, they're coming over here taking our jobs, things like that. But once you actually go to those countries and get to know those people, they're not much different than us. They have different food, they have different music, they have different clothing, but they still respect the same things that we respect. A lot of people love family. Another thing, like we have to stop with the crime, crime, crime. Crime is here in America down the street. Homeless is here in America down the street. Nothing there you can't find here. And that's not to take a dig at the United States of America. This is the country that I'm born in, and I do what I have to do to stay here. If you know, you know. But I feel like we get into this whole, well, they don't know, they don't do this, they don't do that. Before you make that judgment, try going there and getting to know the people. Put yourself out there a little bit. It's also befuddling to me that we are pretty much the only country where we only speak one language. Everybody else speaks multiple languages. And I had to learn Spanish in school and I tried really hard to get it. After trying 4 years of trying to fluent in the language, I have much respect for people who speak multiple languages
Right.
because it's hard. We put out there that everybody should know English, but it's beautiful to hear people talking in their own language. And I feel like that's another hack too. If you're going to a country where they speak a different language, try to pick up on some of the key words. At least know how to order your food, how to ask for a bathroom, how to ask for directions. Pick up on the language.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I could tell you.
Yeah. A lot of the time, I think people shy away from travel because they feel like it's so unaffordable.
Right.
But it's really not if you plan for it. And going back to last episode of B is for Budget, if you save and budget for a travel opportunity at least once a year, if you can do once a year. When my husband and I were newly married, we would travel once by ourselves and then once with the kids. And then as we got a little bit older, we would travel with a group of friends. And then we would make sure we travel with the family as well. So sometimes we could go have up to 3 or 4 trips. We would do a big trip with our kids and his family. Then we had a group of friends that we would travel with. And then sometimes we go somewhere by ourselves. So it could be anywhere from 3 to 4 times a year. But that takes budgeting and it takes saving and thinking about how I'll have this money for these particular trips. So you have to make choices. And we talked about psychology of choices.
And nothing's wrong with a payment plan.
That's
If you need
right.
a payment plan, get with a travel agent. I would actually recommend for people who never been out of the country, get with a travel agent. Some of the best countries that you'll get the best deals with are probably Jamaica and Mexico, or either the Bahamas too. So if
Yeah.
you've never been out of the country and you want to start, those are my top 3 that I would recommend too as well.
Right. For more experienced travelers, if you love islands, like I do, I love islands. Now, I'll do a good adventure. I've been known to go down a big slide. It was a big concrete slide in the middle of the the forest of Costa Rica. And I thought I had gone off the edge several times and died before I got to the bottom of the water slide.
Wow.
No, it was in Costa Rica for Auntie Ariel's 40th birthday. We had to put these things on our arms and we were put in a tire-like tube. And then the water rushed down the side of the mountain and you slid all the way down to the bottom. And I yelled all the way down to the bottom. I saw myself going off the edge several times. And then you land in a pool of water, which you could stand up if you mentally was prepared to stand up, even though I thought I drowned 100 times when I finally hit the bottom. But so I'm known to do a good adventure. We've ziplined in Dominican Republic before, and that's going across tall mountains, screaming all the way across. But I do like chill time at the beach too. So some of my favorite beaches, I think one of my favorite beaches probably would be in Aruba. I love the atmosphere, the people. They speak 3 languages, in fact, and they are so friendly. Another beach that I think is one of my favorites is St. Lucia. Yeah, I don't know the name of any of the actual beaches. I just know go to those countries and find a beach.
I would say another thing you can do to help your travel journey or your adventures is TikTok is a good resource nowadays, but Google is your friend. So I know mom wants to do skiing for her 50th birthday coming up, and Aspen is crazy. The prices, we're not there yet. You can cash out me if you want to see me there, help a sister out, but we're not there yet. Aspen is expensive. And I was looking at, Park City, Utah, because I went there before too with a friend that I met. And we had a good time. It was great. We actually got a really nice 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom lodge. Very nice price. I did a spa there. We did a nice restaurant. The community is really cute. And Salt Lake City is beautiful. So I was like, okay, this was a cheaper option. Let's try it again. The flight was $1,800 for around her birthday. So I was like, we're not there yet either. Now we can
Yeah.
do it, but again, budgeting is my goal. So I have to come up with a more cost efficient way to travel. I'm holding myself accountable, as you see. Follow my lead.
I do want to interrupt for a second though, because you have to think about what you value too. For $1,800, I'm going to Europe. I mean, or Africa, and I'm going to be there for Asia for quite some time. Indonesia, like I'm going Bali, like, and I don't even think the flights to go to any of these places is that expensive. But if I'm going to pay $1,800, I'm not going anywhere in America. I'll just get in the car and drive and take several days to get there before I pay $1,800 for a flight in the U.S. Yeah, I'll probably not drive either, but I'm just saying. So you got to think about value too. It's not that I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm just thinking about you value what you pay for it. And I don't value it enough to pay
If you got it like that,
$1,800. Even
That's
if I won the
ridiculous.
lottery though, I wouldn't want to pay $1,800 to go to Utah, especially with all that's been going on in Utah. I mean, I wouldn't want to pay $1,800 to go to Utah.
It's
Sorry, go ahead.
Colorado and Utah were too expensive for the budget, especially when we're trying to get everybody there. So what I did was Google like best places to ski in January. I said to myself, one of these places has to be cost efficient. So I did my research and I found Stowe, Vermont. Right now in January, they have flights for $300. And I'm talking about from like Jacksonville, from Savannah, from Brunswick, from Atlanta. They have cost efficient flights. That is amazing. Now, they don't have a lot of cost efficient options for skiing that's, bougie on a budget because I'm not staying in a hostel and I'm not staying in a Roach Motel. I will spend more money on lodging than the flight, to be honest. But I found this cute little place that I thought would be great. It couldn't fit everybody, so we just ended up going with the Marriott. And that will put the trip probably around maybe 900 at the most for me as a single person. I think well, actually, let me plug Delta because I am a very avid Delta. So really, I actually did not pay anything for my flight because I have flight credit. So I would just be paying for my hotel. And for 2 nights, I should be around $600, $700 with tax, not without. So that's why I'm saying do your research, not just TikTok, but also do your Googles because you can find really cool places in the United States to travel to
Absolutely.
just for like quick trips. I will say the US has very great options because of our terrain and our landscape. There's beautiful places to go to. We live here in Georgia where we have mountains and beaches. I would say Georgia and California actually have very synonymous lay of the land. I know the word, but it's not coming through.
Landscapes.
Landscapes, yes. So there's beaches in the south. We have the islands. They have the islands. Then in the north, there's the wineries, the mountains. So if you are an East Coast person, come to Georgia. There's this great winery called Three Sisters Vineyard that I really like. I got this Dahlonega Gold. If you can't make it to Napa Valley, that's a different location you can go to. There's also a wine country in Virginia, like right between West Virginia and Virginia. There's a really nice wine country. And I did a work trip. The HR manager that I was shadowing, she took me to a couple of them, and it was a great time. They had, your low key spot, and then they had the nice bodacious winery that makes it look like you're in Italy. Plug that type of stuff in too, because we're not saying you have to go out of the country. It's just make sure you're getting your bang for your
Yeah,
buck.
but yeah,
Yeah, that's the most important thing in my opinion.
absolutely.
Like I'm a big fan of Chicago. I'm not necessarily a fan of New York City. I remember when we went when I was younger and it was just like
Yeah, the kids didn't really like New York City too
like
much.
remember when Nene said a white refrigerator? That's how I was looking at New York City. But when I went to Chicago, I fell in love. If it didn't get cold there, I would personally want to live there. I would love to do like a summer work assignment for those full 3 months in Chicago because it's a very beautiful city, some of the best skyscrapers, some of the best buildings, some of the best food, some of the best hangout spots. So I would be a Chicago girly if they did not have a winter. But
Yeah.
the South has my heart because, warm climate, beaches that are okay. Not necessarily gonna get in the water nowadays, but I'll definitely still go to the beach and hang out.
Yeah,
And
so
then
we
good
want to
food.
know what questions do you all have about travel? Not that we are total experts, but we've been a few places and we might could answer
Yeah.
questions that you all have about traveling if you're a first time traveler. Or even if you're a more experienced traveler, but you feel like you want to do things a little bit differently from how you've been doing it. Over the years, I've learned a lot and have changed several things about how we book trips and where we go. I'm a review reader too, and I had to learn that everybody's review shouldn't weigh that heavily. I mean, I try to go on the overall points now because sometimes I would read one bad thing and I'd be like, no, we're not going there. But now I realize, people's experience usually drives what they review. And if they had a bad experience, that doesn't mean everybody else did. And that one bad review might be just because that person had or that family had a really bad experience, whereas everybody else may have had a really good time. Everything was clean, and that's what I look for a lot of times is it very clean and is the food good if you're staying at a resort. If it's a country, just looking at what type of food they have and
Right.
yeah, is it safe, especially? Are there any entry fees? I talked about that earlier. Always make sure you know whether or not there's any entry fees or paperwork that you have to fill out ahead of time before you go to that particular place. But if you have questions about travel, we'll do our best to answer based on our current knowledge and even research that we've been doing for future trips. My husband and I have been talking about getting to Africa for a while now, so that will be a future trip. We hadn't really picked a country. I know he said Ghana, I said Johannesburg. I want to go to the Gold Coast, the Ivory Coast, South Africa. So many places I want to go. So we hadn't really nailed down exactly where. Another place that I know I want to go is Bali, the Maldives. So those are places that I have on my list.
Yeah. So today's judging you actually is going to pertain to travel because it's an older question that somebody asked me, and it has to do with solo travel. So I am a solo traveler. Everybody doesn't believe in it. Most people look at me crazy because I do it, but sometimes you just got to go. Waiting on your friends, you'll probably never go. No shade. Love you guys, but I still gotta go where I'm trying to go. And sometimes I go by myself. So I know I will be judged for this. But my first country my first solo country was Panama. I had a really great time. Again, another thing I'll highlight is learn a little bit of the language because you can't trust everybody. And that's no shade to any country, but just for my own safety as a single woman, I know a little bit of Spanish, enough to have conversations. I make sure I let people know I know the language. And I felt super safe in Panama. My next solo country was Tulum, Mexico. Now everybody and their mama was telling me, "You going to Mexico? You going to Mexico by yourself?" Blah blah blah. Okay,
Everybody and your mama.
yeah. Every day I am my mother, and I'm just like, look, guys, I feel like I'll be okay. It was not my first time going to Mexico either, so I knew a little bit about it. I know Tulum is close to Cancun, so I was prepared. And I know a lot of people my age go to Tulum, so I knew what to do. Now, I'm not saying if you just really want to go out of country, that's one of the ones you should do on your first time. I think if you're going to Mexico for the first time, you should go with other people, but I felt safe. There were some sketchy things, and you do have to be careful if you do your research, but I do feel like Tulum is okay to go by yourself as well. And then my third country that I went to solo was recently for my birthday. I went to St. Lucia. I will say St. Lucia is probably the best one of the three for solo travel. It is so beautiful. Now, it is more of a romantic country, in my opinion. Once I got there, I was like, oh, okay, everybody's booed up. Everybody got a man. Everybody got a. And so I'm looking kind of crazy. But you'll always find some random guy that wants to talk to you. And I don't know what it is. I don't want to say it's just for the green card, but every time I go out of country, somebody acting like they're ready to fall in love. I'm just like, look, we can be cool, we can be friends, but please, we are not about to do like a long distance relationship when we both live in different countries. Like, that's not going to happen. So that's my take on solo travel. Just make sure you're very safe. Let people know where you're at. I also recommend this for group and solo travel is to get the travel pass. AT&T and Verizon both have it. That's where you can have access to your phone and data and like talk text without being on Wi-Fi. It's
Yes.
usually $10 a day for both of those. Now I'm not sure about was it T-Mobile and whatever ones.
Yeah, I've
I'm
never
not
heard.
sure, but I know both AT&T and Verizon have it. Another thing I recommend, get WhatsApp because most people out of the country won't have access to texting you. So WhatsApp is a good international
Right.
site and it lets you communicate with people in different countries. Now I know in China they got WeChat, but most of everybody else use WhatsApp. And my
Mhm.
final plug in for people who are looking to do solo travel. And this is a good one, even if you're not going to do solo travel, you should register your trip with the US Embassy. So that lets them know you're out of the country. This is where you're staying. If something ever goes down, you'll get alerts. Like when we were in London for my study abroad, there was an Ariana Grande concert the same year in Manchester, and there was a bomb that went off in the concert. So we got a lot of alerts about what's happening, how to get to safety, even though we weren't really close to there. They just wanted to inform us as US citizens that, hey, this is what's going on. Be careful, be cognizant, because they didn't know who actually did it.
Right.
And I remember they also didn't do the changing of guards. So that's something they do at Buckingham Palace. And every day they perform, well, not perform, but they do their job. Sorry, I don't mean to try to say they're performing for people, but they do the changing of the guards. It's supposed to be this cool tradition. And that was one of the first times they did not do it because of that bomb. So we didn't get that alert, but we got the alert of the actual bomb. And then everybody was like, hey, are you okay? All good? What's going on? You can get to safety. I was just like, yeah, we're not really close to Manchester, but they still told us. So just make sure you register with the US Embassy because you never know. There's many people that do travel out of the country, even with other people, and don't make it back home. So for your safety and for your well-being, just do all the things to make sure you make it back to
Yeah.
wherever you're trying to go.
And if you're flying out of a big airport, do TSA pre-check. It'll save you a lot of time when you get to the airport. Now, when we first started flying, we drive to Atlanta, and I wish we had done TSA pre-check then because Atlanta is probably, yeah, you'll get hung up at the Atlanta airport. You could miss a flight
And that's why
if
I
you're
don't
not there
That's why
4
I don't
hours in
mind
advance.
the connecting flights because when I go out of Jacksonville, for the most part, it's pretty easy to get through, and then you don't have to go through the Atlanta pre-check. You can just get to your gate, but a direct flight is good too.
Yeah, as we got older, we began flying out of Savannah because it is closer to where we live and it's easy. It's Savannah. You walk in, you go through security quickly,
Yeah.
and you're at your gate.
Yeah, it is hard nowadays. Hoping Delta will do more hubs so that people can have more direct flights. I know they're trying to build up the Jacksonville airport, so maybe, fingers crossed. And I don't want to go all the way to Orlando because I hate Orlando's airport. I hate Orlando's airport. I hate Miami. So I'm just hoping Jacksonville gets it together and don't make their mistakes. That is my answer to the person who asked me about solo travel. I do hope you have a good time, you're safe, you come back. Then next, our last segment that we're introducing is listening to, and we'll talk about some of our favorite movies, TV shows, songs that can check out. And I'll start it off because I feel like this is a great segue into travel, but on maybe kind of the dark side is something we need to realize. So, a documentary I recently watched on the next Netflix is Come Hell and High Water. It was about the Katrina hurricane. As a child, I knew it was serious because people were coming from Louisiana and, coming to school out of nowhere in Georgia. Where we had a girl, she was like, hey, my family, we're from Louisiana. We had to come because of the storm. So everybody like how serious it was, but after watching it, I kind of felt what was then portrayed was not portrayed clearly. How they were treated being US citizens, it really broke my heart. They called them refugees. They were trying to shoot at them because they wanted to leave or try to get out. I didn't know people had to stay in the dome, Superdome for so long. And then it was a certain ward where people were just on top of their houses and they were just flying by, not trying to help them, not trying to at least get the children. Like, women and children, they always say get them first, but they weren't trying to do any of that. Oh, watching it back, it was heartbreaking. And to hear 40 years before that storm, they had another one, like, in 1965 that pretty much devastated Louisiana, and that's when they built the levees, but they knew the levees were not good enough to withstand a storm of that magnitude again. So for 40 years, they sat on that information. The engineers knew they didn't do a good job, and they did nothing. So a lot of that could have been prevented if we would have put the money and the resources into fixing the levees before another storm like that came. So after watching that, I was just appalled because so many people go to New Orleans to travel. Like, it's one of the top destinations in the United States. If you don't believe me, Google it. They go to the bayou, they go to eat, they go to just gamble and do all the things. And I know some people are against New Orleans. Well, not many, but you'll hear some people saying no because of the voodoo and hoodoo religion that they practice, but that can happen anywhere. A lot of it is in Mississippi and other states in the South too. I just know New Orleans is a big destination. So for so many people to go there and spend their money and use it as a place of destination to travel, and when they're in need, nobody wants to come help. No, let me take that back. There were a lot of people who cared enough to go out there and provide resources. But I guess the way the government did them just didn't sit right with me because I know they get a lot of money from New Orleans. Like, as a person that
It's a tourist
travels, right?
destination.
It's a tourist
Yeah.
destination. So, Miami, Vegas, New Orleans, pretty much anywhere in California, but Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, Atlanta, all big tourist destinations for most people. And I see on Twitter a lot of people try to downplay Atlanta, which is funny to me because if you go out of the country, people will ask you, "Hey, are you from Atlanta?" They don't even ask you like after you tell them you're from Georgia. It's like before you even say it, if you're Black, you're going to ask you, "Are you from Atlanta?" So it is a well-known country. I need people to realize that. I mean, not country, but it's a well-known city. I need people to realize that, and lots of people travel there because it is the Black Hollywood. It is just what it is. But I feel like treating those type of cities as if they're, and to be honest, I feel like any city should get the resources that they need to rebuild themselves and for the people to be able to live freely and not have to stay in a Superdome or not have water or just, hey, do whatever, we can't help you, or even not even tell them in enough of event so that it can leave, knowing that so many people didn't have the resources to get out. There should have been a better plan. It is the past, and I know I'm beating a dead horse, but I know now in the future, I do hope that they prepare and they're not putting anybody at risk because that city is underwater, basically. The way it's set up, any little storm can put the whole thing underwater. So there has to be something done to put them in the best position. And I would recommend anybody check out that documentary because it definitely shone a light on what actually happened, especially for younger people. I think at that time, I was born in 96, so I had to be like 9 around that age when it happened. So you know what's going on, but you don't have a clear vision of what all is happening. Like, I didn't know there were people being killed just because they were Black, and it was open fire for some people. I didn't know they were being treated like refugees. I didn't know any of that until watching that documentary.
Well, we just recently watched 40 Acres, and I think that is a great movie as well.
Mhm.
And just thinking about what Brandy just talked about with New Orleans, I like 40 Acres because just like with the people who went through Hurricane Katrina, the family in 40 Acres shows resilience. And that's what I thought about when I was listening to Brandy speak, just how resilient people had to be to lose so much and then rebuild. And when we watch 40 Acres, I think the reason why we liked it so much is because it shows a family who is in a post-apocalyptic era and how they take care of themselves completely. They farm and they build and they create. And you just see the genius of the family. And I know it's a movie, but those things kind of make you think, what if we were in an era where all the comfort and pleasures of life are taken away? And that's very similar to what you just heard with the documentary on New Orleans and Hurricane Katrina. All the comforts of life, no lights, no water, and you had to figure out how to sustain and how to live every day. So that movie really made us think. And the mother in the movie was such a strong figure for making sure that her children still learned, making sure that they worked, making sure that they protected themselves, and making sure they knew the lay of the land and how to survive in case anything happened. So I won't give the plot of the movie away because it's a really good movie. But I just want you to know, if you ever think about if any of the comforts of life were taken away from us, what would we do? How would we survive? And if you like those types of movies that show families working together and striving together in a post-apocalyptic era and surviving, that's a good movie to watch. We really enjoyed it. In fact, we enjoyed it so much we watched it twice. So
Okay.
make sure you check out 40 Acres.
And now I have an ebook that I would plug into. Now, this was my first time doing the ebook thing. I'm more of a girl that buys the book from the bookstore or Amazon. I don't really care for ebooks, but I was doing a book club with my friend. She started one with her other friends and asked me if I was interested. Like, sure. And the book was 7 Days in June. I say this was a beautiful book. Now, at first, I was like, oh, I don't know if I like this. And I think it was more because of the being audio. I couldn't get into the narrator's voice too much, but once the plot started revealing itself, it was a very beautiful romance story, and it actually was about a lady whose ancestry was from Louisiana. So I just wanted to plug that one in. And as far as music, my song of this week would be Hot Body by Arya Starr. That song has me ready to get in the gym every day and get back on my grind. I appreciate her putting that song out. It's fire. And she is an international artist from Nigeria. So it's good to see her get some shine here in America. I hope she blows up because she has really good music. Like, check that out. Did you have any?
Listening to right now, some of the old Sade songs from the album Stronger Than Pride. Just that whole album is really good. So just being reminiscent back in the day. And then another back in the day tune that I've been listening to because I'm trying to learn the tenor part. I sent the link to this song to my sisters so that we could perhaps sing it together during Christmas. But I've been trying to learn tenor. Alto is a bit, I'm an alto, but the alto in this particular song is a bit high. And so I've been trying to learn the tenor part. But the song is How Excellent Is Thy Name by the Mississippi Mass Choir. And that one is pretty old, but it is really, really good. And I listen to it on the way to work in the mornings, and I sing as loud as I can doing my tenor part. But those are the two things that I've listened to this past week. I'm gonna go from the church house to the club. I guess I have to listen to Cardi B's new album. I hear is fire. So
Yeah, I think she has some good songs, but
I
I don't know if I'll listen to it anytime soon.
yeah, I gotta check it out. So, other than that, that's what I'm listening to. Reading, really, I hadn't had a chance to read anything for pleasure. Everything I've been reading has been for work right now, and I don't want to talk about works.
Yeah. Well, that's all we have today, guys. Happy traveling to you. We hope to hear from you soon, and we'll see you on the next episode of We Listen and We Judge.
Take care.
Have a good day.
Bye bye.